Ever get that sinking feeling?
Mm.
You know, like when someone asks for a favor
Mm.
and you're already mentally drafting that yes text,
Oh, yeah.
even though what you really want to say is,
Right.
no way,
Yeah.
you're not alone.
Nope.
Today, we're diving into the psychology behind saying no,
Yeah.
why it's so hard,
It is tricky.
why it's so crucial, and
Yeah.
how to actually do it without turning into a puddle of guilt.
Without completely melting down.
Exactly.
So, the source material you provided
Okay.
really unpacks this well, highlighting how saying no is often more about our own internal wiring
Mm-hmm.
than the actual request itself.
Interesting.
It's fascinating, really.
Right. It's like we're pre-programmed for people-pleasing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The source dives into how societal conditioning plays
Okay.
a huge role. From a young age,
Yeah.
many of us are rewarded for compliance. Think back to being praised as a good kid
Oh, absolutely.
for simply doing what we were told.
Yeah.
Over time, that morphs into this knee-jerk yes reaction,
Totally.
even when it goes against our own needs and desires.
Yeah. And then we end up overcommitted, overwhelmed, and heading straight for burnout.
Yes.
But here's a thought that really struck me. The source emphasizes that setting boundaries
Okay.
isn't selfish. It's actually a form of self-care.
I love that.
And not just in a bottle bath, face mask kind of way.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. The source makes a great analogy.
Okay.
Comparing boundaries to the foundation of a house.
Okay.
Without strong boundaries, you're on shaky ground, vulnerable to every external pressure. But with solid boundaries in place,
Right.
you create the stability needed to weather life's inevitable storms.
I love that analogy.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it really paints a picture.
It does.
So we're talking about building a strong foundation for ourselves, not putting up walls to shut people out.
Precisely.
Right.
It's about making conscious choices about where you direct your time and energy so you can show up as your best self in all areas of your life.
Which is so much easier said than done, right?
Right.
I mean, knowing we should set boundaries
Yeah.
and actually doing it are two very different things.
It's tough.
But thankfully, this source has some surprisingly practical advice.
It does. It
Yes.
breaks down different ways to say no gracefully, almost like having a toolkit for different situations.
Okay, let's hear it. What are some of these no tools we can start using?
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
It breaks these no strategies down into distinct types,
Okay.
which I found really helpful.
Yeah.
For instance, there's the soft no.
Ooh, I like the sound of that already. Tell me more.
This approach is about gently declining while keeping things open-ended.
Okay.
Instead of a flat-out no, you might say, I can't make it this time, but I'd love to catch up later. It acknowledges the request without forcing a yes.
So it's like dipping your toes into the no pool without doing a cannonball. I like it.
Uh-huh.
What about when you need a firmer approach?
That's where the no excuse no comes in.
Okay.
This one can feel a little radical at first,
Oh.
but it's incredibly powerful.
Let's hear it.
It's as simple as saying, no, I'm not available for that.
Straightforward.
The beauty of this approach is that you don't owe anyone a lengthy explanation or justification.
I like that.
The source emphasizes that a clear and direct no is often more respected than a wishy-washy maybe.
Yeah, it shows that you know what you want.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see how that could be incredibly freeing. But what about those situations where a direct no feels a bit too, well, direct?
Yeah, you're not going to say no to your boss like that, probably.
Right, exactly.
The source has got you covered there, too.
Okay.
They offer up the, it's not you, it's me. No.
Okay.
This one's a classic for a reason.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Break it down for me.
Essentially, you're taking the blame for needing to decline without actually taking the blame. You know what I mean? It's about gently letting the other person down without making it about them. You might say something like, I wish I could, but I've really overcommitted myself lately and need to take a step back.
It's like a softer way of setting that boundary. You're not
Mhm.
saying no to the person. You're saying no to the commitment itself. Clever.
Oh,
What's next in our no toolkit?
we've got one more tool for you.
Okay.
The final type of no the source highlights is the priorities no. This one's my personal favorite because it shifts the focus to your own goals and values.
I like the sound of that. Tell me more.
It's about framing your no in terms of what you're choosing to prioritize instead.
Okay.
For example, you might say, I can't commit to that right now because I'm focusing on insert your priority here and I want to give it my full attention.
That's a really powerful way to reframe the conversation.
It is.
It's not about what you're not doing. It's about what you are choosing to focus on.
Exactly.
So we've got 4 distinct ways to say no.
We do.
The soft no,
Yeah.
no excuse no.
Yeah.
The it's not you, it's me.
Right.
No.
Right.
And the priorities no. That's quite the arsenal.
Right. And the best part is you don't have to master all of them overnight.
Yeah, that's true.
The source suggests starting with whichever type feels most comfortable and building from there.
I like that.
It's about gradually strengthening your no muscle.
I love that building, that no muscle.
Yes.
So we've covered why it's so hard to say no and some practical strategies to actually do it.
We have.
But this deep dive goes beyond individual no's and into something even bigger, right?
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about the big picture then. What does it really mean to reclaim your time and energy? It really is about so much more than just those individual moments of saying no, isn't it? It's about taking control of your life, and that can feel kind of huge.
It can. It's a big shift. And the source really brings home this idea that setting these boundaries, it's not just about, personal gain.
Right.
It actually benefits everyone around you.
Okay, so this is what I think is so interesting. We're diving into this idea that saying no can actually improve your relationships.
That's right. And it's funny because there's this misconception that boundaries push people away.
Absolutely.
But the source makes a compelling case for the opposite.
Okay.
So when you're clear about your limits, it actually fosters healthier, more authentic relationships.
I'm curious to hear how that works. It seems a little counterintuitive, I think, at first glance.
Yeah. Well, think of it this way. Clear boundaries, they minimize misunderstandings
Okay.
and resentment.
Right.
People aren't left guessing about what you can or can't do.
Right. They know where you stand.
Exactly what you will or won't tolerate. This transparency actually strengthens relationships.
Interesting.
Yeah, it creates a foundation built on honesty and respect.
So it's about setting those expectations up front, so everyone's on the same page from the get-go.
Exactly. And the source actually uses this great analogy,
Okay.
compares it to airplane safety instructions.
Okay.
You have to secure your own oxygen mask before helping others.
Oh, like that.
In other words, you can't show up fully for others if you're running on empty yourself.
That's such a powerful image, and it makes perfect sense.
It
Right. If we're constantly stretched thin, saying yes to everything and everyone, we end up depleted and resentful.
Exactly.
And no one wants that.
And it's not good for anybody. And I think this deep dive really helped me reframe boundaries as like an act of generosity.
Oh, that's interesting.
Not just for myself, but for the people that I care about.
Okay.
So by taking care of my own needs and setting realistic limits, I'm actually able to show up more fully and authentically in my relationships.
It's about creating a sustainable model for giving and receiving.
Yeah.
Now, the source also acknowledges that this is all easier said than done, especially when dealing with, shall we say, difficult people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the source specifically calls out toxic individuals,
Okay.
those who thrive on pushing boundaries and often manipulate others into getting their way.
Right. And that's got to be one of the hardest scenarios to navigate. What does the source suggest for dealing with those types of situations?
Well, the source emphasizes that firm boundaries are absolutely crucial in these cases.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about recognizing those manipulative tactics and choosing not to play into them.
Right. So almost like seeing the game that's being played and opting out.
Exactly.
Right.
Sometimes that might even mean like distancing yourself
Yeah.
from people or situations that are consistently draining your energy.
It's about putting your own well-being first.
Yeah.
Even when it's difficult, and even when it might mean having some tough conversations, or even stepping back from relationships that aren't serving you.
Exactly. And this deep dive really drives home the point that saying no is not about being selfish or unkind. It's about protecting your time, your energy, and your mental well-being.
It's about self-preservation in a lot of ways.
It is.
Which is not a bad thing at all.
Not at all.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. Learning to say no with confidence is a game changer, and this source gives us the tools to do just that. So here's a challenge for you. What's one small no you can practice this week? What one boundary can you set to start reclaiming your time and energy? Let us know. We'd love to hear about your no wins.